Good morning. Bonjour et bienvenue. I'm absolutely delighted to welcome you to the second event in what we call the President's Conference Series. J'ai le plaisir de vous souhaiter la bienvenue à cette conférence de la rectrice. This is a conference that has been named after me, but I can assure you that there is a team of many people who have worked very hard to make this event very appealing, fascinating, and it's going to be a great one for all of you. So today's conference has 3 sessions. We begin this morning, we have one in the afternoon, and we have one in the evening under the overall theme of Every Breath You Take. And this series is really part of what's going on across Quebec universities as part of the Journée du Savoir. It's part of a campaign called Knowledge Matters. And it's an opportunity for all of us in Quebec universities and for us at Concordia in particular to showcase the groundbreaking work that our researchers, our professors do in various disciplines. Our research addresses many of the challenges in today's society and speaks to the need for knowledge, creativity, and innovation in modern society. And so it's for that reason that once again we have invited students of ours, students from CEGEPs and students from high schools to join us here, and the general public, of course, so that all of you can understand the impact of the work of our faculty, our professors, on your lives, your daily lives. So we're particularly pleased today to welcome students, teachers, and guidance counselors in person in the room and online as well from Centennial Regional High School. Where are you? Not very enthusiastic. And from Trafalgar School for Girls, where are you? See, that's better. We also have online Stafford Middle School in Plattsburgh in the US, Chambly Academy, Cégep à Distance, Collège Édouard Montpetit, Marianapolis College, and there may be many millions of people around the world. Who knows? The more the better. And it's also with very great pleasure that I welcome back for the second year Mountain Lake PBS, that's public broadcasting also from the United States, and they are filming this morning's session for broadcast at a future date. Last year they were here, they filmed the conference, and they broadcast it. So we're extremely excited that we are going international. So thank you for being here. The 3 sessions today will be looking at the complex social, political, and technological links between individual privacy and public security. So sometimes links, sometimes conflicts, and we're going to have a look at what that means to us. This morning's session is called Your Life as a Crime Scene Investigation, Every Move You Make. And it will look at how computers can be infiltrated by hackers and criminals, and how today's surveillance technologies can track your online actions from the most dangerous to even the most modest, and how they can even use them as potential evidence. After this, you're going to be very careful, I'm sure. You probably write nothing more than let's have a coffee at 10 o'clock. So just to remind you, if you're interested, we have 2 sessions later today, one at 2 p.m. called The Science of Surveillance Every Smile You Fake, and one this evening at 7 p.m., I'll be watching you. Can we reconcile privacy and security? And we'll be getting into that question about the tension between the need for security and everyone's basic right to privacy. Je vous souhaite donc la bienvenue et je vous encourage à participer activement. Après les séances, il y aura une période de questions où vous pourrez aussi faire des commentaires sur ce que vous aurez entendu. Et je suis sûre que vous aurez beaucoup de questions et beaucoup de commentaires. Je vous invite aussi à m'envoyer tout commentaire, des suggestions, des remarques au sujet de ce cycle de conférences. So don't hesitate if you've got feedback to email me. Don't worry, nobody will hack into my email. President@concordia.ca. And if you want to learn more about Concordia, a little promo here, this Saturday, November 7th, is Open House Day at Concordia. You're all welcome. Students are welcome. Your families, your friends are welcome. And I hope to see you there. J'ai le plaisir maintenant de vous présenter notre animatrice pour ce matin. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Ray Stasison, this morning's moderator. Dr. Stasison is chair of the Department of Communication Studies at Concordia. Her work has been screened and exhibited internationally and nationally at venues like the National Gallery of Canada and the Museum of Contemporary Art in Los Angeles, and her work also resides in public and private collections. Dr. Stasison.
Thank you, President Woodsworth. It's a real pleasure to be here this morning and to see such a full house. We have a great opportunity to be part of this Concordia's Presidents Series, and today we're honored to have joining us an impressive and prominent group of experts, all who have specialized areas of expertise and significant experience in the detection, prevention, and prosecution of cybercrime. Dr. Mourad Debbabi is the director of the Concordia Institute for Information Systems Engineering. He holds the Concordia Research Chair, Tier 1, in Information Systems Security. Dr. Debbabi has published numerous papers in journals and at conferences on computer security, cyberforensics, malicious code detection, and programming languages. Captain Frédéric Gaudreau is the officer in charge of the Sûreté du Québec Cybercrime Unit. Captain Gaudreau has coordinated several major investigation files, as well as a multitude of development projects in partnership with organizations dedicated to the fight against cybercrime. As a member of the Integrated Technological Crime Unit, Staff Sergeant Michael Herring was a recipient of 2 certificates of appreciation from the FBI for work done in both the Mafia Boy file, a computer attack on several major U.S. internet companies, and for attacks against the U.S. Supreme Court. Ms. Lynn Perreault is a computer forensics officer in the Electronic Evidence Unit of the Competition Bureau. Ms. Perreault is also the executive director of the National Cyberforensics and Training Alliance Canada. Please join me in welcoming our guests. As we know, the overall theme of this year's President's Conference is Every Breath You Take, Surveillance, Security, and the End of Privacy. And our session this morning is Your Life as a Crime Scene Investigation, Every Move You Make. We will be watching you. And watching we are. Please note that this morning we are webcasting. Remember, we are being watched, recorded, and documented. We do not know when we are being tracked, monitored, or used. When does private become public? Do you think about these things when you're online, when you're purchasing something from an e-commerce site, or when you're downloading films and music or sharing files? Do you think about who could be reading your email, your tweets, or your texts? And do we actually remember that deceptive interception is becoming increasingly more prevalent? Our fingerprints, or our right prints, as you will hear about this morning, can reveal significant information about who we are, our profiles, our personality, our writing style. We leave such evidence every time we send communication, whether from our phones or from our computers. Our use of social networking sites such as Facebook and MySpace and the information we so easily share makes our notion of privacy become increasingly vulnerable. We have no control about our information and how it's used, for that matter, who we're actually communicating with. Are we at risk of losing control of our identities? What happens when we lose control of our own image? What do you do when your photographed face turns up on the body of someone else on a website that is both personally and professionally damaging? And what happens when someone devises a malicious program that is so destructive it can crash the computer networks of a small country? What happens when secure economic infrastructures are breached and all the systems are scrambled? Or the security of a nation is entirely compromised? These might sound like familiar storylines from some of our favorite films and television series, but High-tech crime, cyber espionage, cyber terrorism are part of our contemporary reality. The escalation of such crime and the constant innovation of ways to defraud, defame, or destabilize continues to grow. This presents the need for research in these areas, research that predicts potential cybercrimes, research that can understand how to read and locate information that is so deeply embedded and hidden. At Concordia, we have such research taking place. Groundbreaking work on cyberforensics in the renowned Computer Security Lab, founded by Dr. Mourad Debbabi. The Computer Security Laboratory conducts research on intrusion detection, cyberforensics, data mining, and privacy protection, just to name a few key research areas. The Computer Security Lab networks and collaborates with organizations to share information and to provide expertise in aiding the solving of cybercrime. The lab works with experts from the Sûreté du Québec, the RCMP, and government and non-governmental agencies. Working together, these teams strive to inform, to educate, and to actively mobilize their own expert teams to assist in detecting, preventing, and prosecuting cybercrime. This morning, please remember that we will have a question and answer period after our presentations, so take notes and be ready with some questions because we look forward to hearing from you. Please join me in welcoming Captain Frederick Gaudreau to the podium to start our morning session. Thank you.
Good morning. First, I want to thank the University of Concordia for inviting us to give you a speech today regarding one of my patients, which is cybercrime. And first, I just want to let you know, as a police officer, certainly I see 99% of negative way of using the internet, but 99% of the internet is good. I'm doing my transaction on the internet. I have an email. I have internet access at home. So please listen to my elocution, but by thinking that, yes, it's not too bad. First, we just go a quick definition of cybercrime. There is no consensus on a definition of cybercrime, but it has to see the computer as both as a tool and a target. This is the way that we see it. We have different types of cybercrimes. The first one is internet issues. The second one is traditional crimes committed on the internet. And the third one is pure cybercrimes. What about internet issues? Those things could be discussing, but they are illegal. The first example I can give you is spam. Did you ever heard of spam? Did you ever receive spam? I just want to ask you a question. Maybe you can raise your hand, even if I don't see you with the lights. Who has internet at home? Okay, good. So that's a good crowd. I have internet at home. I have it at the office. I have several email addresses. I don't have any souvenirs. On each email address, I received at least once a day a spam. It could be regarding an old king from Africa who was dying, and sometimes life is good for me, so I receive the heritage of this old king. So the only thing I have to do is sending all my personal data details, open an account in a bank here, and that's nothing. That's nothing. It's quick. You can do it, and then I'm still waiting for money. And also we have hoaxes. This is another type of internet issues. This is another kind of email I receive every day is, like today, you are all sitting in an auditorium, and I received a hoax yesterday saying that there will be needles on your chairs. So this hoax circulates since 6 years or 10 years on the internet, but it's still updated, and sometimes people are sending it, but this is not illegal. Intellectual property. Everything that's put on the internet becomes like public, and people are using it for different reasons. And sometimes they are stealing this kind of intellectual property, but it's still there's still a hole in the laws in Canada regarding that. defamation. On a criminal side, point of view, this is not always criminal to defame. It could be civil action against the people who defame you, but we see a lot of blogs, websites containing defamation message. Unfortunately, sometimes we can do nothing as a police agency. Traditional crimes, fraud. Fraud exists since people exist. So it's not because of the internet that we see a lot more fraud. Yes, it's a tool that is used to reach more people, to try to attract more people in the frauds schemes. The vast majority of frauds prosper with the help of a rich ecosystem and technological means that makes it easy to reuse old frauds and with new variation. For example, we see a lot today of I'm always laughing about it, but it could be this happens. People are selling parrots on the internet for $150. When I go with my kids at the pet shop, it costs like $2,000 for a parrot. So I'm asking myself why this parrot is $150. Why should I pay for like $2,000 for a parrot? But people are buying those parrots and they never see the parrot. The parrot will be never delivered, but still someone is cashing out the money somewhere else in the world. Child exploitation is another traditional issue. It exists, unfortunately, it exists since humanity, and today internet allows people who are collectors of child pornography, for example, or lurers on the internet, because they know that they can reach a lot more kids on the internet, and they can manipulate people, which they are not able to do in the real life. They are more comfortable to do it from their own home. Threatening. Threatening is another problem that we see. Unfortunately, it goes sometimes further than we expected. Threatening people on a face-to-face basis is pretty rare, but on the internet it happens so often. Unfortunately, sometimes it goes further. For example, school shootings. They all start with threat, sometimes on the internet, and unfortunately, sometimes people are reading those messages and are thinking that people won't, do it. It's just a threat. They won't go and pass to the action. We saw an unfortunate example last year at Dawson College. So it's for real. They are using this vehicle of communication to try to send a message to the society or to people. So we have to act and report it when we are witnesses. Same thing with hate crimes. Hate crimes, hate propaganda is rising on the web. Even though hate propaganda appears to be increasingly common, recourse to criminal courts are still rare, so we have to mention it. Cyberbullying is another example. Before the internet, we were able to bully people without any problem. Now it's a big problem on the internet because it's hard to trace back the source of the bullying first, but we do, just to reassure you. But in fact, it's easy for people to say, I don't like you on the internet than to say it face to face. So sometimes those messages are, again, circulating from emails, from Twitters, other kind of communication tools are used to do cyberbullying, like websites, for example. Illegal gambling. It's illegal to gamble if it's not regulated by our province here in Canada, but we still can play on the internet. To poker games, online casinos. This is a problem, actually, that we are facing. Another problem like a smuggling of firearms, cigarettes, tobacco, alcohol. You can find it all on the internet. I'm telling you, it's a risk to try it because we will be somewhere in between. Maybe we will deliver the cigarettes. So just to let you know. Pure cybercrimes. You will hear more about it in the next part of the conference. But just to put you on the edge, it's emerging technology has introduced one of the types of hacking that seems to have made great inroads in recent years. For example, botnets. So the use of botnets is everywhere now. When you receive, for example, your computer can be used for any purpose on the internet, criminal purpose, but you won't know it. You won't notice it. So, whoops, it's not me. It's the masking tape. So the botnets are really present on the internet, and that's the problem. You will see a part of the presentation after. And I want to conclude my part with this one. Identity theft. This is something that was existing before the internet. I agree. But now, the difference is before the criminals has to be really, you know, some kind of genius to try to find out what's your name, your address, and but now we see this kind of thing. Here's my name, my picture, my address, my phone number, and my email. If I'm putting this sheet of paper right beside the door there, people will say, hey, what are you doing there? Are you crazy? You just, you know, leave your personal details to everyone who will be in the room. I will say, maybe I'm better than you because your picture and your name is on Facebook. And here we are like 300 people in the room. So at least there's only 300 people who will have access to my profile. But on Facebook, can you tell me how many people will have access to your profile? Can you just suppose how many people will use your personal data that you put there as your name, phone number, date of birth, name of your family, name of your dog, name of your school? As many details that we can find on the internet, it's really impressive for us. I can tell you now, in 2009, that I find more personal data in the internet, on open source research, than our police database. So, just to let you with that kind of message, just, you know, I have my information is on the internet because I'm doing lectures, but I assume it's for professional purpose. But when you are doing it on a personal purpose, just, you know, remind to yourself that, yes, maybe someone else will have access to my personal details and will use it for something else. So now I want to give the mic to Dr. Debbabi, who will entertain you about the demonstration. Thank you.
Thank you, Frederick. So Frederick did give you a taxonomy of cyber crimes, and the last category was pure cyber crimes. So I'm going to give a very small demo that illustrates how easy and how damaging we can do cyber attacks. And in particular, I'll present one of the most prominent attacks, which is based on what we call botnets. But before getting to the demo, I'd like to present some background on the botnet technology. So assume, for example, that you have a bad person or a hacker that is sitting somewhere, maybe outside Canada or in Canada or in some place. That person is going to try to create an army of infected machines, maybe in millions, and he will command this army of machines in order to execute different type of cyber crimes. And I'll show you, for example, how we can do identity theft with this army of infected machines. So initially, that hacker or that bot master, as we call, or bot herder, will have a piece of malware that we call a bot, or which is a software robot, that has some pre-programmed commands that he can execute once instructed by the bot master. So that piece of malware is going to be uploaded to a particular machine by using one of the infection mechanisms that exist. There is a plethora of techniques to infect a machine, and there is also different catalogs or libraries of programs that we can use to do such infections. So once the machine is infected, which means we uploaded that robot, that autonomous program, that program will start executing. It will register with the bot master, and it will also spread to other machines. It will contaminate and infect other machines. And so on, these machines will themselves infect other machines. At the end, we will end up by having an army of infected machines, compromised machines, without the knowledge or the consent of the users. And this recursive infection process can catalyze and amplify the attack. So at the end, we can end up with millions of compromised machines that are distributed all over the internet. Just to give you an example, in July, there was a publication that mentioned that one particular botnet, which is called the CIISE, infected US by 3.6 million infected machines. So 3.6 million infected machines with that particular bot. And that bot was specialized in doing identity theft. So actually, botnets is a very powerful delivery mechanism of attacks. So we can use them once we infect millions or hundreds of thousands of machines. We can instruct them to do many things. For instance, we can ask them to log the keystrokes whenever you enter a particular website. It might be your bank. They will transmit their user ID and password and your bank account number. In this case, for example, they will steal your identity and they will communicate the identity to the botmaster in the form of a packaged report. We can instruct them to do denial of service attacks. So for example, we will tell them to go to a particular target machine and to send a request to that machine. Of course, that machine will not be anymore available. It might be a web server, for example, that we are taking down. It might be a web server of a bank or a web server of a government. And this is exactly what happened when we had attacks on governments like Estonia and Georgia in 2007 and 2008. So this army can be also instructed to do mass spamming campaigns. So if you would like to promote a political message or a commercial message, we can instruct them to send messages. Imagine 3.6 million machines infected. If we do ask them to send 100 messages each, we will end up having 360 million spam just by a touch of a button from the botmaster. We can ask them to do a lot of stuff. For example, to take copies of your screen and send them as images to the botmaster. Or we can ask them, for example, to fetch some particular information, important information, in your hard drive and send it to the botmaster. Imagine, for example, a senior official of a particular government or a corporation who has access to sensitive information, and we can take that information and send it back to some other source to the botmaster. We can ask them to do phishing by pointing the users to a particular website that is simulating a leading corporation or leading bank, for instance, and just for the purpose of getting their credentials and transmit them afterwards to the botmaster. So this is the botnet technology. It's a very powerful technology. It's a delivery mechanism for several types of cyber attacks. So now let's go to the demo. So the demo is an illustration of an infection, and after the infection, we will steal information. For example, credit card information or bank account information or user ID and password. And then we will also control what the victim is going to see on his or on her machine by doing what we call web injections. And to do this, we used two pieces of crimeware, software that can help in perpetrating crimes. We used the CIISE crimeware that is behind the CIISE botnet. And we use it as a platform to do the infection, the unique pack catalog, which is a catalog of all types, of many types of infections. I'd like just to thank my students, Hamad, Amin, Thomas, and Sinha for the preparation of the demo. So they are part of the botnet group at NCFTA Canada, which is hosted here at Concordia. So the attack scenario is like this. First of all, we will send an email together with the link. The email will be coming from Concordia, supposedly. So basically, we forge the address of the sender. So it's not really coming from Concordia. It stipulates that the email is coming from a Concordia association, and the association is organizing some trip to the park safari, and we will give them the link to the park safari, and when they click, just by clicking, they're going to be infected, which means the bot is going to be uploaded to their machine. And then the bot will register, of course, with the CIISE botmaster, the command and control station or server of the botmaster. And then the botmaster starts stealing the information and controlling what the victim is going to see. So let's go to the demo. You see here, for example, the unique pack server or the unique pack platform, which is an infection platform. So basically, you see here a copy of the screen of the bot master. He has a command and control machine, and he's commanding his army of bots from here. You see that there is 0 infection so far. So we sent an email. If you can see, the email is coming from the graduate announce@concordia.ca, so we can put whatever address. I mean, it's very easy to fake emails. And we are telling them it's a student association inviting you to the park safari trip, and we put a link. Once the user will click, hopefully, on that link, he will get infected directly. So on his screen, he will not see anything happening, but actually, without his consent, the bot was downloaded to his machine. So now there is a bot. You see that there is one infection, and the infection happened on Internet Explorer version 6. The same thing can happen with Firefox and with IE7, Internet Explorer 7. Now the bot will register with the bot master. We will see here that there is one infected machine. And now we go back to the victim machine. So the victim is going to connect to an e-commerce website for the purpose of buying some goods. So initially, he will enter his email address and password to get access to that e-commerce website. And you see here that we are asking him to give the social insurance number. Actually, this was not part of the site. This is the bot that infected the machine that is asking for that information because he was instructed to do so. So now the victim is entering into the site. You can guess that his credentials have been sent to the bot master. So he will navigate. He will pick a movie. And he will buy that movie, and he will pay for that movie. We see here that he's entering his credit card information, his name, and the expiry date. Again, all that information is going to be packaged in a report and sent right away to the bot master. So the victim bought a movie for $54, something about Mary. I think this is the title of the movie. And you see that he finalized his order. He has only one order in his account. Now the bot master is going to open his command and control station. He received a few reports and from the bot. And we can open one of these reports. The very first one contains the email, the password, and the social insurance number that we did ask for. It's not the e-commerce website that did ask for it. And all this is happening without the consent or the knowledge of the user. A second report will contain the credit card information. So if we open that report, we see the name and the credit card number and the expiry date of the credit card. Now that once the bot master has that information, he can use it to do transactions. So what he's going to do, he's going just to go to the same e-commerce website. We could have chosen eBay or a bank or whatever, just for the purpose of the demo, to not have any problem with this corporation. We did pick a generic e-commerce website. So here he's going to do a transaction, the bot master or the hacker. He's going to enter the email and password. There is no request for the social insurance number because the bot master is not infected. So he will go to the website. He will see the order that he will order something on behalf of John Smith. He will pick a very expensive item, a graphical card from Matrox that is worth $500. He doesn't have to worry about the amount because he's not paying for actually. So he will enter the information. He can, once you pay, you can deliver and put any name. So it's Evil Hacker from Evil Street and Evilville that is situated in Quebec. So basically, he will give a different delivery date, the delivery address. Comes the time to pay for this. He will just go to the report, cut and paste from the report that he received from the bot. Expiry date. and then he will finalize the order. So now if you go to the account of the victim, we will see that he has two orders, one that is worth $500 and the other $50. Once the order is finalized, then the bot master will go and remove the address that he did enter, because we don't want the victim to notice that someone entered a different address. He will delete the address because the order is finalized. And now we are going to do something very interesting. So the bot master is going to create a web inject. Basically, he's going to create a script that is going to control what the victim is going to see, because we would like to hide that order from the victim, the 501. So we are going to create a web inject that is going to tell the bot, next time that the victim goes on the website, don't allow him to see the second order. So we create a new configuration file for the bot that is infecting the victim. Once that configuration file is created, we will create a script. And once the script is executed, basically that configuration file will be pushed to the infected machine without the knowledge or consent of the victim. And we will ask the upcfg, means update configuration. That's an order or a command to the bot to update its configuration with the new configuration file in order to do the web inject. So this is really very powerful because it allows us to basically control what the other guy will see when he navigates on the internet. So we will conceal part of the information that he is supposed to see. So now back to the victim. When the victim will log on the e-commerce website, so we push we execute the script. And then when the victim goes to the e-commerce website, he will see just one order because the web inject manages to hide the second order. So it's a very powerful way to do identity theft and to control what the victim is seeing. So in summary, what we did, the demo showed how we infect a machine very easily. And many of the navigators have this problem. Second, we did the identity theft, the user ID and password, social insurance number, as well as the credit card information. We did transactions and we controlled what the victim was able to see. Now I will give the floor to my colleague, Michael, from the RCMP, to talk about the legal aspects underlying cybercrime.
Hello. First of all, I'd like to thank Concordia University and Dr. Debbabi for giving me the opportunity to speak at this event. Who I am. Basically, I'm with the RCMP Integrated Technological Crime Unit, and what we are responsible for is investigating computer crimes of national or international scope and providing technical assistance to other units for non-technological crimes. And what we are is a unit comprised of policemen and civilian members, people that were hired for the computer or cell phone expertise. Information technologies have created a world of virtually unlimited possibilities as far as being able to see things from the other side of the world, knowing what's going on. We can all see how these technologies have affected our everyday lives. Who here doesn't use Google Maps or use a GPS, a cell phone? It started with TVs, and we've moved on from there, or radios actually. But basically, everybody talks about cyber crimes, but really, crimes per se haven't changed. What has changed is digital technologies have allowed us to store information and transmit information in new and different ways. And basically, as much as they've changed the way we do business and the way we live, they change the way criminal organizations and criminals do business as well. Crime types really haven't changed. A murder is still a murder. If I go to a crime scene and there's somebody standing there with a knife over a body, basically that's where the investigation starts. However, if somebody finds a body at a gas station next to a cell phone that maybe has a CCD camera that's monitoring that gas station, that's where the technology aspect enters into it. We need somebody to analyze the footage from the CCD camera, closed circuit camera. We need somebody to look at the cell phone to obtain warrants to get the information from the cell phone. And all that to say, in the media right now, everything seems to be a cybercrime, and that seems to be the flavor of the day. I think Reuters a few months ago came out and said that cybercrime is now more important to organized crime than drug dealing is. I don't know of too many drug dealers that have gotten rid of have left their traditional business to start hacking. Largely, and thankfully, that's because it is difficult to turn cyber cash or the money or the credit card information that may be floating around on the internet into tangible goods. The difficulty there is if you have it delivered to Evilville, Quebec, how hard is it for the police to contact the company that sold you this merchandise, see where it was shipped to, and how long do you think it's going to take us to knock at the door on Evilville, Quebec and talk to that hacker? One of the popular misconceptions, I think, is that they're rich hackers. I've arrested a fair number of hackers, and I've seen a lot of them. I have never met a rich hacker. I look forward to meeting a rich hacker. The stereotypes, unfortunately, are quite accurate. A lot of these, the only rich hacker I've met actually was living in his parents' basement, and that's not because of the hacking that he was rich. It just so happened he had rich parents. But they spend a lot of time on the computer, and there's a lot of things that can be done on the computers. Botnets, these social networks are great targets right now for cyber attacks. The criminal code has, by and large, done a really good job in keeping up with the crime types because, as I said, they really haven't changed. There are some sections that have been modified to accommodate pure computer crimes. Pure computer crimes would be something that I would qualify or describe as something that is done entirely on a computer, from computer to computer, something that you don't have to come back to the physical world, to the real world to do. These sections are, and a lot of them were modified from previous sections in the criminal code, 342 being theft and forgery, which resembles theft, and basically the criminal code tends to take things and put them in that order. So we have unauthorized use of a computer, possession of devices to obtain a computer service. Then we jump to 430, which was originally mischief to property. Now we have mischief to data. It's not to diminish what this crime can cost you. If you're a major corporation and you have billions of dollars invested in your IT department and somebody comes in and messes that up, it is a catastrophe for that company. Then we come down to things that came in when we started to have real telecommunications or telephone services. Possession of a device to obtain a telecommunication facility or service, interception of telecommunications, and possession of a device for the surreptitious interception of private communications. Now, these crimes, they are out there. They get a lot of headlines. There are huge amounts of, there are huge botnets out there. There are huge amounts of credit card information that are stolen. Facebook accounts get hacked. Private information gets stolen, and it gets traded all the time. There are rumors of people making money with them. They're not in this country typically. Most of these, there used to be an organization called the Russian Business Network that used to specialize in carding type offenses. Carding offense is something where you would, via phishing or some other way, you would steal somebody's credit card information, turn that into a real plastic credit card, and then go make some purchases with it. There are some difficulties in that, and by and large, it's thanks to the private sector that that's gone back, because the Visas and the MasterCards and the American Expresses of this world, did not want to be victimized, and they did not want to victimize their clients, so they found ways to ensure that the merchants themselves take care of some of this problem. The advantages of cybercrimes are typically criminals no longer need to be physically present. The traditional fraud was two people meeting in a bar somewhere. I promise you something that I don't deliver on. I no longer need to be physically present. All I need is a nick or a surreptitious name that I've put somewhere. How do you know who you're dealing with when you are dealing with somebody? On Facebook, on IRC, on ICQ, on MSN chat. How do you know who they are, where they are, especially for the kids? I mean, I know a fair number of Julie 14s that are out there that are actually policemen sitting in an office trying to catch people that may be trying to victimize a real Julie 14. Technology allows crimes to cross borders, and because of the nature of the internet, invariably it's a packet switch network. Without going into details, a lot of your information is crossing borders without you actually knowing it to get to where, if you want to send something to Toronto from Montreal, there's nothing that says that the email that you send from here will go directly to Toronto. Portions of it, depending on what it is that you sent, may go through the States. They may go through, most likely through the States, but they may very well go through Europe. The biggest advantage for fraud artists or people intent on committing fraud is computer-facilitated crimes allow you to send 1 million messages. Before, the people in, if we come back to Frédéric's example of the Nigerian, typically what we call Nigerian fraud, which is a letter from a long lost, or from saying that you've got a long lost letter, long lost relative somewhere that has passed away, and they've left you millions of dollars. Before, these used to be delivered by mail. Now, with the press of a button, I can send literally 1 million of these all across the world. The world has become much smaller because of these technologies, but invariably it's become more complex in that there's a number of jurisdictions and boundaries, commercial interests, and laws that govern it. Even for the traditional crimes, we're faced with the task of gathering evidence that we've seized, but lots of times if you have a cell phone or if there's a message that may be on Hotmail, Hotmail, for those of you that don't know, is owned by Microsoft and are located in California. But there's a lot of people in Canada that happen to have Hotmail accounts. For me to access that information, I have to get an MLAT request approved by Ottawa, send it to Washington, and from there it gets sent to California where it gets executed, and eventually I will get the information back. The way we've gotten around that, and the biggest problem I would say with the legal system is keeping up to speed with the pace of telecommunications these days. The good news is there are a number of international treaties that have been signed by the G8 and other organizations, as well as the multilateral assistance treaties that have been signed. The bad news is, while there's a lot of good intentions out there, the harsh realities are some of the treaties that have been signed, some of the sections are against their own charter of rights, so they can't be used in Canada. Or what is a crime here is not necessarily a crime in a foreign jurisdiction, or what may be a crime in a foreign jurisdiction is not necessarily a crime in Canada. The framework around most international investigations is really complex because you're dealing with multiple time zones, multiple countries, different legal systems, whether it be a civil, a common law system, as in the States, but still the laws and the infractions are different. Their criminal system is different than ours. Or if you're dealing with a civil law country, or a Napoleonic Code if you prefer, as France, where basically a judge leads the whole investigation and he just simply gives you an order to go to this person's house, seize the computer, and analyze it. The questions, we do get a certain number of, or we actually get a rather large number of requests in our offices. The first question that we always have to ask ourselves, in whose jurisdiction did the act take place? This is important to us. This is where everything starts. Where is the victim? Where is the suspect? Where did the crime take place? If a significant portion of the crime took place in Canada, and it is a crime in Canada, we can investigate it here and charge the person here if they happen to be located here. If not, we can obtain warrants to get information for a foreign investigation, and via MLAT, they can then get access to that information. The other question is, when it comes from a foreign jurisdiction, is this a criminal matter in our country? Is it a civil matter? Or is it something that would be regulatory in nature, in that it is an offense under a certain act, but there's simply a fine that is given for this offense in Canada? As I've already stated, the other problem that we often have is explaining our legal system to foreign jurisdictions, because they're used to doing things in one way and we're very used to working in our own system. The last question, and this has come up in a couple of national security files and some of the requests that we've been receiving lately, is we have to try, depending on what the request is, how will that information that we've gathered, how is that going to be used in the foreign country? Especially for something that may not be a criminal code violation in Canada, where we wouldn't prosecute the person. Is a person in some foreign country going to be sent to jail? Is that person potentially going to be tortured? They're all things that we touch on. The future, or actually even the present, the one thing that most of us don't think of when we're using a computer is that however many millions of sites we're able to connect to, that's how many millions of people are able to connect to our computer. How good is the security on your machine? How many friends do you have on Facebook? And what is your criteria for choosing a friend? Do you know who that person really is? The best example of, we've got in our offices, we tend to be a little bit geeky. We've got a lot of early adopters of technology, 3G phones. We've had iPhones for a long time. How much information is there on your iPhone if you were to lose it? Is it password protected? Could I pick up your iPhone? I could probably find out who you are, how old you are, who your relatives are, where you live. If you got the GPS, it'll probably give me a map right to your house. Maybe the code to your alarm, the PIN for your bank account. All that stuff is on your iPhone, and that's really where the future is going. It's going towards 3G mobile devices and cloud computing. For those of you that aren't aware of what cloud computing, what the information technology industry is pushing right now is cloud computing, which means I no longer need to have the computing power right at my hands or at my fingertips. Basically, it resides on the internet. It's owned by Microsoft, Google, Yahoo, whoever may be offering a specific service. All I need is a browser, which most of our iPhones have now, or most 3G phones, or a small netbook device. And I could literally have almost unlimited storage, unlimited computing power via that browser. And that information then can be housed in California. It can be housed wherever it is cheapest for those companies to keep their server farms. I'm not sure how we're going to face that challenge of getting that information. But that's basically what we're looking at. And I think that's where things are trending towards, is the small mobile 3G device. And that's it for me. And I'll turn it back over to Dr. Debbabi for the forensics portion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. So I'm going to talk about the cyberforensics, which is basically the discipline that deals with investigating cyber incidents. So a very quick definition of the discipline: it's the use of scientific methods for the purpose of collecting the evidence, analyzing the evidence, and reporting on the case. So it's about three things: acquiring the evidence, authenticating the evidence, which is a very important principle in digital crime investigation, and also analyzing the evidence. So what type of evidence do we have when we come to seize a machine or to investigate a case? We have two types of evidence. There is one evidence that is volatile, which is basically going to disappear if you turn the machine off. Example of this is the information that is left in the physical memory or the RAM of the machine, the network state, the connection that you have, the running programs or processes that you have, and also non-volatile evidence is basically what is persistent in your hard drive or other media. So the investigation is going to be based on the evidence that you leave on the computer. So what type of evidence do we leave? So we have information in all these sources, in physical memory, in hard drives, in the registry of Windows. For those who are familiar with the Windows operating system, that's a database where the operating system is keeping information when you are using the machine, in the logs of the network, the logs of the web, and so on. And also in your messages. You know, when you write messages, emails, or instant messages, you are revealing information about yourself. Écrire, c'est se révéler. Writing is revealing yourself. So I'm going to try to take these few examples of each of these sources and to tell you what type of evidence do you leave. So if we take an image of your physical memory, then we are going to find a lot of things. For example, we can find files that you loaded in your physical memory. Maybe you deleted them from the hard drive, but still they are in the physical memory and we can extract them. We can get, for example, the list of URLs that you visited, some of them that are still in the memory at the time of the incident. We can take copy of the image of the physical memory and we can parse it, we can go through it and extract those history of navigation on the web. If you used encryption to hide some secret, maybe we will find the keys. In many cases, we are successful in extracting the keys from the physical memory. We can get user IDs and passwords, and we can even detect sometimes the existence of some malicious programs like rootkits, which are special case of malware that modify the proper or the normal behavior of the operating system. I'd like just to take an example. Here we have a tool, one of the very first tools in investigating physical memory was developed here at Concordia in the master thesis of one of my students, Riza Aresta, who is now the forensic investigator of Research in Motion, a company that manufactures Blackberries. So the tool that he initially started and then after that we did maintained and extended allows us to extract user IDs, passwords, URLs, encryption keys, and so on. This was one of the very first products in this area. So these are screenshots of the tools. For example, here we see that we can extract files and their content. We can extract the set of running programs and their execution environments and so on. Another example is the hard drive. Hard drive, we can get files, the existing files or the files that you deleted. When you delete actually a file, it's still there on the hard drive. More likely it's still there on the hard drive. And if you download the utility from the internet and you try to undelete those files, you will be traveling in time. You will see all the history of your navigation, all the files that you created in the past. It will be really fascinating. Some people, sometimes when they would like to do some hacking, they use live CDs. They come up with a CD-ROM or DVD-ROM, and the programs are burned on the DVD, on the CD, and they don't use the hard drive. They think by doing so, they can evade detection, or they can evade accountability. In many cases, even in those cases, when we investigate the hard drive, we are able to get the list of commands as shown here on this screenshot in yellow. We have seen, for example, in this case, that the person used the live CD but still left information on the hard drive in which he executed commands like one command here, it's sneak to a particular web server. Basically, he's trying to identify the vulnerabilities of a particular web server. One example is that registry of Windows. It's a common database that contains a lot of information, and without knowing, when you use a computer, you leave information there. If you execute the command regedit.exe, and that utility will open, it's a registry editor. And if you go, you can navigate into the registry. If you go to that particular key, for example, Microsoft Windows current version run, we will get a list of all the last programs that you run on your machine. If we go to another key, for example, Microsoft Internet Explorer typed URLs, we will get the history of your navigation, even if you delete the history of your navigation. So there is enough redundancy in the operating system that allow us to get a lot of information about what you did on that particular machine. A last example, when you write messages, whether they are emails or instant messaging under MSN and so on, we can know a lot about you. For example, we can reconstruct your social network. We can know to whom you have been talking, how often, about what concept, and so on. We can know the temporal distribution of those messages. For example, here we see a case where that person has been talking to so many people. This type of abstraction that we compute can be extremely helpful for a forensic investigator. That particular screenshot was executed on the corpus of emails of the Enron case. So we took maybe hundreds of thousands of Enron emails that were published, and we ran the tool on it that we developed here at Concordia, and you can see the social network of the Enron employees. Also, when you are writing emails and messages, you are revealing a lot about yourself. You are basically revealing your right print or your fingerprint, how to write. So we calculate about 400 features. We call them stylometrics, features about your style. These are metrics that measure your style. For example, we calculate the number of digits in your emails, the number of letters. Some of them are related to the lexical words, the word count, the average word length, the average sentence length, and so on. Some of the metrics are extracted from linguistics, like the hapax legomena is about the unique words, or dyslegomena, it's about the words that are occurring twice, excluding the functional words. So we calculate 400 of these things. Some of them are syntactic, are related to the punctuation, are relating to the indentation, the use of spacing. Some of them are related to the how many HTML tags you have, how are you signing your greetings, and so on. And at the end, we are able basically to know your right print, and we can use it. For example, if we have an anonymous email, by using data mining technique, we can match your email against a database of profiles, and we can say with a high confidence who is the author of that anonymous email. So just to give you an example of this, we executed this tool on emails of Lynn Perrow. I didn't consult her actually on this. I didn't get time to tell her this. I'm not going to reveal the fingerprint of Lynn, but I'm going to tell you some of the things of her fingerprint. She often uses words containing the letter L. Sometimes she signed at the end of the email by using capital L. She often uses words containing the letter C, and this type of behavior is consistent. We found it in 4 out of 20 emails. My right print, some of it, I was surprised actually with these facts. It seems that when I write emails, I use extensively the tab spaces, and I often use words that containing the letter L, and also these type of things are consistent in my emails. Maybe this is due to the tab, for example, characters are due to the email client that I'm using. And now I'm going to yield to Lynn, and she's going to talk about the prevention and about our activities in cybercrime fight and research.
Wow. How many of you are scared and confused? How many of you are racing home and cleaning up your Facebook page? That'd be me, for sure. Well, luckily, there are a number of organizations out there who are coming together to fight the good fight, and one such organization is the National Cyberforensics and Training Alliance of Canada, which I have been very fortunate to be involved in since its inception, and extremely fortunate that it's here and housed at Concordia University. They've been phenomenal in the support of the NCFTA, and it's going forward because of that. So the NCFTA actually was originally founded in the US, and we were privy to that information, and we are emulating what they're doing there to bring that fight here to Canada. It is basically looking at the crimes, the cyber crimes that are impacting Canadians. We will be working hand in hand with the US and other international organizations. So we have a number of industry experts. That is the concept here, where we bring academia, public sector, government, etc., law enforcement, and industry to the table. This is key. This collaboration is key because we need, as law enforcement experts, we need to know from industry what is current, what is affecting the Canadians and consumers at this point. So they are our eyes and ears. They are also subject matter experts that help us in fighting cybercrime. Without this collaboration, it wouldn't work. The university, the academia field, phenomenal in terms of bright minds working on current issues. You've seen some of the demonstration today. The writing style that Mourad just spoke about is being worked on at the NCFTA. I was a little surprised at seeing my own writing style up there. I'm going to have to start spelling my name out at the end of emails, I think, so I can throw a few N's in there. So we have, as you see here, a panel of subject matter experts. They're all involved in the NCFTA. We have other organizations as well. As I said, Concordia, we have Microsoft who are at the table, Bell and Rogers, Ericsson Canada, and then we have some, the public sector, Competition Bureau. And for those of you who are not familiar with the Competition Bureau, it is a law enforcement agency. We just oversee the Competition Act, so mergers, misleading advertisement on the internet, and the like. Sûreté de Québec is also here. We also have some members who do not wish to be in the public eye, but who lend a great deal of support. As I said, RCMP, we have IBM at the table, and some other defense research, DRDC, CRIM. Some of you may be familiar with these organizations. Now, just in terms of prevention, some of the things that you can do, that you can go home and do today, because at the end of the day, the weakest link, if you will, is the social engineering that goes on. In other words, enticing you to click on that link that you really shouldn't click on. So the more difficult you make it for them to get into your computer and gather that information, obviously the better it will be. Because it used to be, there was a time when the hackers did it for notoriety. Now it really is about money. It's about making money, stealing your personal information, to go online and do exactly as Dr. Debbabi showed you quite easily, make purchases in your name, and you're not even aware. This is happening all in the background. So some of the things you can do is absolutely keep your computer up to date. A lot of the operating systems out there will advise you regularly to download their latest patches. Make sure you do this on a regular basis. Make sure you set it to automatic so that it gets done. Make sure that everything is configured securely. How many have Wi-Fi at home? A network of Wi-Fi. You have a number of different machines, people, your children using machines at home, or you have 2 or 3 different machines. There was an incident not long ago in Ottawa where the police showed up on the door to serve a search warrant on a family where they suspected that there was child exploitation happening. It wasn't happening there. Somebody had basically used their unsecure Wi-Fi. They call that war driving, where they just generally drive around in the neighborhood looking for unsecure Wi-Fi access and sit out there and do what they need to do and then move on. So be sure that you encrypt your Wi-Fi and so forth. Choose very strong passwords and do not put them in your computer. Do not keep a little electronic database of your passwords, because if somebody does get in, you've just given them all. There are lots of ways to try and memorize your passwords. Use security software. Your ISPs are very good these days at providing you with free software in terms of basic protection for antiviral, anti-malware type of programs. There are lots of free ones out there as well, but by all means, pay that $30 a year and upgrade to a stronger anti-malware program. And make sure it is up to date and that you have the most recent definitions and so forth downloaded to your computer. Protect your personal information. There used to be a time where the phishing, and that's phishing with a PH, it used to be strictly, the banks were being hit the most. We're starting to see Facebook, phishing emails that are coming to you to enter your credentials and your login information for Facebook so that they can get in there and get your personal information and steal it. Even if you have it private, it's how they're going to get into it. So be very careful with that, with your online information. It gets propagated out there by search engines. So once it's up and it's out there for a long time. And at the end of the day, if something looks too good to be true, it truly is too good to be true. You know, my 80-year-old aunt called me up and said, I have a check for $3,000. Can I deposit it? You know, it came from this bank I'm not aware of, you know. And I'm like, please don't do that. No, but really, it's made out to me. Do not do that, you know. She just it was in her hot little hand. But it had started off on an email that she had clicked through and they mailed it to her. There's a scam. It's too good to be true. And regularly review your banking statements and your credit card statements for purchases. We saw how a purchase was made at e-commerce site, and you do not see that reflected on your account on e-commerce site. Go look at your paper copy of your credit card statement and be diligent about it. We don't do that enough. So in conclusion, really the threat is quite serious and quite real. You know, we've had a little bit of humor here today, but there have been, technology is used to conduct denial of service attacks, as we saw in Estonia and Georgia in the last couple of years. This could be used for cyber terrorism. So, you know, be mindful, and by not securing your computers, you perpetuate the problem by becoming part of the botnet. And this is how these things are done, is through botnet. Massive identity theft. Dr. Debbabi said something about it. 3.6 million compromised machines in July 2009 in the US alone. Extrapolate that. We're talking billions of machines out there probably being infected as we speak. Email, this spam has gotten a lot of attention over the years. It's still a problem because it still makes money for the people sending it out. 90% of email traffic is deemed to be spam. Levels of attack becoming very sophisticated. Zeus bot code, while seems complicated, and it is, there are people out there wanting to make money off it. They will sell you the package for a few $100s online. So they make it easy. They make something complicated easy, and that's how it gets perpetrated. So we hope today that you know, we're promoting information security systems here in Canada. We're working hard at NCFTA and our colleagues here at the university and in law enforcement. You know, we want to educate users and train the experts as well, because we need to stay abreast of everything. We are having a hard time keeping up, and there's a lot more of them, and it's not because we don't have the skill set or the knowledge, it's just numbers. It's a numbers game, really. We're doing some excellent work in R&D. I'm very excited about some of the projects that are happening right now at NCFTA and in the NCFTA in the US and in other organizations abroad. So the partnerships, as I said, collaboration will be key. And that is really the future, I think, in our fight against cybercrime. So thank you very much for your attention today.
Thank you very much, Mourad Debbabi, Frederick Goudreau, Michael Herring, and Lynn Perot for sharing incredible information with us. And I think we're all a little bit shaky at the moment, going, yeah, I need to get home, I need to check that laptop out, my wireless network. We're going to go 10 minutes over with Q&A, because I would really love to hear from you in the audience, asking questions of our experts. I think we've learned a lot. You've given us a lot of really interesting information, and I think the key thing we're hearing is about collaboration, and that these are partnerships from Dr. Debbabi's lab here at Concordia with all of the other organizations in Quebec, Canada, and internationally. So why don't we open this up now to questions?
It's about hard drives. If something I erase can still be read I wonder why I still upgrade my hard drives, because I would just save something, erase it, and save something else, erase it, and then buy that software and read them.
Actually, I can answer that. Computers are like us. They're basically lazy. They don't actually erase anything on the hard drive. What it does is there's an index table, and when you delete something, the first thing it does is it goes into the index table and says that file is no longer there. This space is now available on the computer. So it may or may not still be on the computer, and the computer is divided up into sectors. So depending on the file size that it will or will not be there depending on if you write over it or not. If you deleted something 5 minutes ago, I can get it back in its entirety. If you deleted something a year ago, I may be able to still get fragments of it, depending on how and what has been written over it. But the computer doesn't actually go to that section and write over it unless you use a special wiping program.
Okay, thank you. We have a question over here.
Thank you, Dennis Murphy, Raise My Boss. Thank you very much for the very clear presentation. My question is very succinct. Are there mechanisms available to executors of wills to ensure that the information of the deceased that you talked about is completely eradicated? Are there some ways to make sure that that can happen in that process?
Probably the answer is no, but I'm going to give you a tip that was given to me recently, actually in the realm of Facebook and wanting to take information down off of Facebook. You can't just go in and delete that information because, as I said earlier, the search engines propagate that information all over the internet. The tip that was given to me, if you want your information off the internet, is to actually go in and fictionalize all your personal information and let it sit there for 6 or 8 months so that overwrites the information that pre-existed. I don't know how well it works. It was somebody in law enforcement that gave me that tip, but it'd be very difficult, I think, to go and find every last bit of resource out there that's been on the internet. There's no once. Once it's on the internet, very, very difficult to find every last location that it's cached in, that it resides in. So unfortunately, I think the panel might agree with me. The answer is no.
Thank you.
It's a problem that hasn't been addressed yet because it's a very recent problem. And you're right, it does need to be.
Yeah. All right, thank you. We have a question over here. Is this from one of our remote questions? No. Okay.
Hello. The demonstration you gave about using the bot in order to take control of a system and be able to do purchases is, of course, very, very scary. And and my question is specific, and you see the tool I'm using. I just want to know if it's just a Windows problem or is it a general systems problem.
Actually, many of these attacks or infections are the result of bad programming in the products that we use on the computer. For example, the one that I did show is related to a problem in the programming of IE, Internet Explorer, or Opera, or Firefox. So an easy way to fix the problem is, before releasing these type of products, is to check the existence of security vulnerabilities and to fix them before fixing. Unfortunately, this is not what is happening in the software industry for time-to-market reasons. So sometimes they are very quick in releasing the products. And also sometimes this is because of the lack of training. And the programmers are not necessarily security experts. Mm-hmm. And one final reason is sometimes, if you take, for example, the Windows operating systems, it's millions of lines of code. So you cannot go and look by hand for these vulnerabilities. It's a process that is not scalable. So what people now started using is they use technology that automatically find vulnerabilities in software products, and then after that, they proceed with the systematic security hardening. And in this respect, I'd like to say just one thing. here at Concordia, we have been partnering with National Defense, Ericsson, and CIRC, and Bell Canada in order to create similar technologies.
Thank you. Question over here.
Yes. What can a user do to protect himself or herself, despite the fact that he or she has done everything possible to secure their information, but has no control over people in his world, his or her friends, grandmother, doctor, neighbor, company he's dealing with, etc. In other words, all of these people who have all this personal information in various degrees, and yet the user has no idea whether they're secure or not, and who the information is given to. For example, we know that many companies sell information to others. We know that there are people hacking into doctors' files and other things. So how does an individual protect himself or herself when all of these other agents are around about whom we have no control?
Michael?
I'm going to tell you that there's actually very little that you can do about that, or there's very little that any of us can do. I think that's just one of the ways that technology is affecting all of us, and the way we store information nowadays. And that goes back to the previous question on protecting somebody that's deceased, their information. It's something that we know is out there that is going to have to be addressed. I would say most of those concerns now will be in a civil matter. If your doctor lost your information and it was used for something, your recourse would be primarily civil against your doctor for not having stored it properly. And really it would depend on the situation. Primarily your recourse, I would think, in most of these cases will be civil. And that's why companies, because none of the companies that are out there necessarily want to be sued. I'm sure your doctor doesn't want to. So they're taking, basically it's forcing them to take steps to make their systems more secure. But there is no good answer, unfortunately. There is no real recourse, I'm sorry.
Education is probably your best answer. So educate the people in your immediate family and so forth, and maybe extended people who might have personal information, with regards, and let them know what your feeling is as well. That, if they're going to post a, personal page on a social networking site, that you do not want to be included, you do not want to be referred to and stuff. So just let them know where you stand. But education outreach really is going to be key, because we as computer users, end users, are always viewed as the weakest link. We're the ones who are going to post the information or click on that particular link that we shouldn't.
Okay.
That's the unfortunate part.
Thank you. We have a question over here.
Two short questions. The first one, is it true that the owners of Mac computers do not have to buy security programs because they are protected or they are not attacked? And the second question is, when we give a computer away because we want to buy a new one, organizations like Bureau en Gros, for example, take them. But they say, have you erased your data? You tell us, no, we can't erase the data. And there used to be programs we could buy in Bureau in different places where you could write over all the data, but they seem to have disappeared from the market recently. So how can we, should we take a hammer and physically destroy the hard drive? Then they won't be given to charities.
Frederick and Mourad, I think, might want to tag team this.
Yeah, maybe for the first question, my answer will be the only reason that you won't put an antivirus in your computer is because you don't have a computer. So if you want to be safe, it's like a personal responsibility to protect yourself and protect your computer. And even if the majority of people are saying that there's no problem if you have a Mac or if you use Linux, for example, or it's only a matter of the most because there's more PCs on the market, there's more attack targeting the PCs, but there's also Mac who are targeted from attacks. And maybe for the second question, well, there's no way to erase completely a hard disk, but there's a way that, like we do in drugs, we burn it.
So you could destroy the hard drive, you know,
Actually,
yeah, so there's many ways.
There are options. There are wiping programs, and they still are available, some of them for free. What they would do is they wipe the computer hard drive to a D&D standard, which basically means it's been written over 6 times.
Okay.
That doesn't mean it's all gone. If somebody out there with an electron microscope really wants to know what you have on your hard drive, they can still get it, but it's painstaking, extremely expensive, and unless it's not going to happen more than likely.
And they go for the low-hanging fruit anyway. There's too many other computers out there where there's information. Right. Alternatively, take the hard drive out and just give the machine over.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
You know, they can put a virgin hard drive in and it'd be fine. And then you can burn your hard drive or take a hammer to it.
Okay, thank you. A question over here, please.
First of all, I would like to congratulate you all for your presentation on this question of security that we have to take concerning the computers. Everybody's on computer now. In my case, for example, as the 4th computer that I've been using, well, this is personal. But the problem still exists, the question of data in the computer. We can never, as I understand, be sure that data still exists in the computer. Do you mean that the best way to remove information from the computer is to remove the hard drive and put it on the ground or something like that? Get rid of it?
Be the safest way, I would think, if you did not, if you were absolutely, if you had done your 6 wipings and you were still concerned about, you know, the minute fragments that were there, then don't, you know, share the computer with the hard drive. Take the hard drive out.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Question in the middle here. Hi.
Hi. If governments use legal ways that are a lot harder than the sophisticated methods that hackers use to get information, why are people in the general public so scared that their information will get to the government, the whole Big Brother thing, that that governments and other people will be getting information legally about them that they don't really want them to know?
Excellent question.
Yeah.
Give that to Mike.
I want to answer that.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understand the question correctly. You're worried about information that's on your computer getting to the government, is that correct, or information in general?
Not necessarily, but people in general are scared that their information will be intercepted by other people, or that they do, not necessarily on the computer.
I really couldn't tell you. From our perspective, for everything that we need or everything that we want, even for a criminal case, we have to go in front of a judge and get a warrant and explain to them what it is that we think will be there, where it will be, and what crime that will help us solve. So it is a judicial process. I think what a lot of people are worried about is the government does have a tremendous amount of information, in particular the revenue agencies, UI, unemployment. But having worked with the Criminal Investigation Unit for Revenue Canada, it's near impossible to get that information, and they can't share it with anybody else. You're right in that you probably are a lot more likely to lose information to somebody that's hacked into your system, or more than likely through social engineering more than necessarily hacking, just somebody pretending that they are someone that they're not.
Okay, and last question over here, please.
I have a technical question. My question is what about the Botnet program? And is it, how do you get to know if your computer or your browser is affected by a Botnet program? Well, I'm not sure if it is identified by the antivirus or the spyware or the malware program that you have in your machine usually. So what are your comments on this?
Okay, that's a very good question, actually. Some of the antivirus products are adjusting to this. So whenever we know that a particular bot exists, they take its signature and they enrich the database of signatures of the antivirus to detect that botnet. Sometimes, I mean, if it's a zero-day attack, if it's something that is unknown, what you can do about it, there are basically
products that are available, some of them are free to detect the existence of rootkit. Because bots, basically, they try to hide. They try to be stealthy. And to do so, they will change the functioning of the maybe kernel or some of the inner workings of the operating system. And some of these rootkit detection programs, they will detect any change in the infrastructure of the operating system, and they will tell you there is a rootkit. Maybe they will not tell you this is Zeus exactly, but they will tell you that there is something about it. Another way also to detect is to monitor what's happening in terms of connections. There are programs that you can download for free from the CIISEinternals.com that got bought by Microsoft. And many of these programs allow you to monitor the traffic, the internet traffic. You can see if there is any suspicious activity. That's also a sign that if you are connecting to a URL that you don't know, then to a server that you don't know, this means that something is going on, and maybe you should investigate more.
From a lay perspective, if you find that all of a sudden your machine is running extremely slow for long periods of time when you're on, and your ISP is telling you that your bandwidth is fine, everything looks good, that's probably a good indication that there's something using up, running in the background on your computer. So that, I mean, that not everybody is probably as technical, and although these are not difficult programs to run, but you may not think to do that. So just call your ISP, and maybe they can help you with that as well to see what's going on in the background. Failing that, turn your machine off when you're not using it. Really, I mean, it sounds benign, but if the machine is not on, it cannot be, if it's infected, it cannot be used as a bot. Turn it off. Turn your router off as well.
Okay, thank you. Just a little bit of information. We're going to put up information on a protected website, at the President's website at Concordia. So there will be information regarding much of what was talked about today that can answer questions, but we promise it will be protected. Thank you so much. On behalf of all of us at Concordia University and the President's Conference Series, I would like to thank our distinguished panel of experts. Wonderful. Thank you. For the really incredible, engaging, and at times destabilizing information and contributions to this morning's proceedings. I would like to thank all of you who joined us today from outside of Concordia and the schools who joined us via webcast. That's fantastic, and thank you to PBS. I would also like to remind you that on Saturday, November 7th is indeed open house. We strongly urge you to come and visit us. You will get to learn about different programs and talk to professors and attend mini lectures and see our great facilities. And that Saturday, you can find all the information on Concordia's website. As well, we're running more sessions today. And again, thank you so much. Please have a safe journey home. And remember, you will be watched. Take care.